But keeping your family entertained doesn't have to. Now you can get a GoTV decoder with 1 month of GoTV Plus for the new low price of 249 kwacha. That's 24/7 access to your favorite local stars, the biggest names in the game, international movies, and plenty to keep the kids busy. It's a deal you can't afford to miss. So don't delay. Get this limited offer today. GoTV, love it.
Mary Silavwe Mulenga has a Master's of Science in Agricultural Economics from the University of East Anglia, Norwich, UK. She also holds a BA in Development Studies from the University of Zambia. Mary is a strong advocate for women's and child's rights and worked as an executive director for Zambia Young Women Christian Association, YWCA. Mary has actively been part of women's movement for the last 20 years and is currently the chairperson of the non-governmental organization Coordinating Council NGO-CC, an umbrella body for organizations that directly or indirectly work with women's issues. Mary has also worked as a political advisor for IPAZ, an international NGO focusing on sexual reproductive health and rights, particularly mental health, from 2013 to 2015. Mary has strong lobbying and advocacy skills. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Mary Silavwe Mulenga.
Good evening. Welcome to one of our series in our Sacrs to Stars. It's a Women's Month, as you know, and this month we've termed our profiles Sacrs to Stars. We have women that have come such a long way in our history. We have women that in the history of Zambia as a nation, they have broken the barriers, they have set standards, they have gone beyond the normal to achieving the Young Women Christians Association. She has led so many things. I'll tell you more about her. But before we go further, I would like to welcome you. Good evening, ma. Thank you for joining us today, Mrs. Mary Mulenga. Thank you for joining us, ma.
Thank you very much, Pastor. It's a great privilege to be here.
It's such an honor to have you. To know that you have done so much in so short a time in your short life, as it were, because you are still very young. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you very much.
Interview you. Well, I'll tell the nation about you a bit before we come back to you. So, Mary how do I pronounce that? Silavwe. Mary Silavwe Mulenga. Don't mind my tongue, I apologize. So, Mary Silavwe Mulenga she holds a master's degree in agricultural economics from the University of Anglia in Norwich, UK. She got her bachelor's in development studies from the University of Zambia. Mary is a strong advocate for women and children's rights issues, and she has worked as executive director of the Young Women Christian Association from 2000 to 2014. She is presently the chairwoman of the NGO-CC. She's been active and actively part of the women's movement for the last 20 years. I hope we'll talk about the women's movement a bit. Now she's presently the chairperson of the non-governmental organization Coordinating Council, the NGO-CC, an umbrella body for all organizations that directly or indirectly work with women issues. Mary also worked as policy advisor at IPSA, an international NGO focusing on sexual reproductive health and rights, particularly maternal health, from 2013 to 2015. She is a strong advocate and lobbyist. She has strong advocacy and lobbying skills. So we welcome you, ma'am. This is a snapshot of you, but we'd like to get the details.
Indeed.
So please tell us, who is Mary? What part of Zambia do you come from?
Right. Yes, I was born Mary Silavwe, and I guess my activism started from there because my parents both late. They were Mambwe from Northern Province in Mbala district, and I think the tradition there is that we are matrilineal. So I'm supposed to carry the name, the surname should be N.A. Nalavwe, but I refused I told my dad I was going to be Slavwe like him, so I guess that was the first advocacy that I did at a very young age. Yeah, so born, just over 58 years ago. I grew up on the Copper Belt. I was born in Bala, but my dad was already working on the Copper Belt as a teacher. So my mom came to join, my dad. And then shortly we moved to Kitwe. So my primary school started in Kitwe, at Kitwe Primary School. I went to Mazapka Girls in the Southern Province in 1976 to 1980. That's where I did my secondary school. After that, I think in those days, during the Kaunda regime, there was a compulsory military training that all Form 5 then school leavers had to undergo. Yes, 6-month military training. So I did that in 1981. And it was compulsory because without that training you could not go to either tertiary education or even work. So you needed to do that. The military training was 6 months. But after that, you were taken to any college or university. The acceptance letters actually came to the military camp.
Wow.
And that is how you were, made to go back home. So some of us were lucky, to get accepted.
To have gone further.
Yes, to have gone further. And so the military training was in a way short-lived. So I think in our year, in 1981, we were what was termed as the 06 intake, so the 6th intake, and there was an outbreak of cholera. There were 2 military camps for the women in Mansa and in Solwezi. I was at the Solwezi one, so there was an outbreak in Mansa, and so the government decided to sort of shut down the camps, and that was the last intake. Okay. Fast forward, I've gone to the University of Zambia from 1981 to 1985. I graduated, from there. I went to work in Kasama for Ministry of Agriculture as a socio-economist because of my development studies background. There was, at the time, the Ministry of Agriculture had introduced what they were calling adaptive research. So research focusing not just on the growing of crops, but also how farmers, like the social aspect of farming, basically, the economic and social aspect of farming. So I was part of the team. And I think in those days, it was not very difficult to get scholarships. And for me, the Adaptive Research Planning team was funded by NORAD. It was a project of the Ministry of Agriculture funded by NORAD, and so a scholarship was actually waiting for me. I could have gone in 1986, but I said, no, let me get a little bit of field experience. So I went for my master's to England at the University of East Anglia in the city of Norwich, 1987. In 88, it was a 13-month crash program. So I got my Master of Science degree in Agricultural Economics. And I think I came back and continued working for the Ministry of Agriculture. I think I didn't last very long after that. I joined the Swedish Embassy as a program officer, but focusing on the agriculture sector. Yes. But later, I think focusing on education and health sectors as well. Yeah, I think when I left the Swedish Embassy, again, my husband decided to go and do his PhD. And I think I should mention this, Pastor. We both, in fact, I met my husband when we were doing our master's degree in the UK.
Oh, wonderful.
So we were both at the same level. And I remember people coming home and saying, this house has got people who are at the same level. The woman has a master's degree, the man has a master's degree. And somehow it created a problem, especially with the male friends of my husband, but also my female colleagues, like, you are at par. I think he needs to get a higher thing. So you see, so this is the kind of thinking, that you have from society, that a woman and a man are not supposed to be at the same level. Yes. And I do remember when my husband was a research fellow at the University of Zambia then. So when he had an opportunity to go and do his PhD, I actually encouraged him. to say, you know what, I think you need to do this. Perhaps that will break this, tension that we are, this mindset that we are at the same level. So sometimes society creates these, misconceptions and whatever it is about, the differences in, the two genders in terms of
bring gender issues
into any situation,
every situation,
which is absolutely unnecessary.
Yes.
So he went and did. We were out for about 4.5 years in Cardiff, in Wales. Yeah, and I think my stint there perhaps jogged my activism.
Oh, good.
Because being in a foreign country as an African, because we were all known as African, we don't know Zambia, South Africa. I found that most of the communities, that were termed the minority ethnic communities, the Asians of Asian origin, from the Caribbean, there were a lot of issues that they were facing. And so I found myself volunteering for an organization called Black Association Women Step Out, BAUSO in short.
So there was some providence in your going
Absolutely,
to Cardiff.
absolutely, absolutely. So in as much as people were thinking, no, let your husband get that elevation, I actually, enhanced my advocacy skills. So that organization was focusing very much what YWCA is doing here.
Okay.
Because a lot of the women that we were dealing with were women that were fleeing domestic violence. And my job was really to be on call. So you were put on call for a week, outside the official working hours, so that if any woman was in any... Exactly. So I was doing 2 days a week. Again, this was an organization called Awetu, doesn't stand for anything, but Befriending Service. And this was dealing with purely, people with mental health problems. Pastor, you'll be amazed to find that most of the mental health institutions in Cardiff were filled with minority ethnic people, Asian origin, of African origin, simply because of the stresses, I think, that they go through. And some of the people that were dealing with the bouts of gender-based violence would actually end up in a mental health institution. So the 4.5 years, they actually enhanced, I think, my interest in dealing with women's issues, especially. So much so that when we came back, I actually got a job was advertised as executive director for YWCA. I applied and I got the job in 2001.
You were prepared for it?
Yeah, I was very much prepared for it, yes. Went up 2004. But I guess my interest, though it was in a different culture, but when I came back and joined YWCA, I've always considered YWCA as a springboard of my activism. Because YWCA is a member organization of NGOCC. NGOCC is the umbrella organization.
Yes.
YWCA is just one of the members. But YWCA is one of the oldest member organizations of NGOCC. And, it was, my stay there, I think, was very, very interesting because I got to meet, different people, travel, quite a lot, and really my advocacy work. So with YWCA, of course, I did. I left in 2004 and just worked on my own, on a lot of issues. And in 2012, I saw an advert, IPAS. IPAS is actually an American international NGO dealing with issues of sexual, reproductive health. And I joined as a policy advisor. And, this is something that kind of challenged me because this is an organization that was looking not, yes, the generic aspects of reproductive health, but abortion was actually one of the issues that IPAS was looking at. And I am a Catholic Christian. And we have a lot of restrictions and stringent measures, including the use of contraception in the Catholic Church. But I found myself speaking for women and girls who had undergone, this situation. simply and purely from an empathy point of view.
Yeah.
And I was challenged, I was given names, and I said to them, I ran a lot of workshops. I said, first of all, you have to appreciate the fact that we have a legal framework here in Zambia.
Yes.
The Termination of Pregnancy Act of 1989. And they found it very funny when I told them that the former President Chiluba, so rest in peace, actually enhanced the conditions under which the termination of pregnancy could be done when he had already declared Zambia as a Christian nation. We tell our girls, should anyone get pregnant in this house, they should never come back. Fine. A girl gets careless or is enticed because there's all this power relation. Or is raped, between male and female. The vulnerable, the female gender is always vulnerable. So this it's not all the girls that project themselves that they need to have a relationship. There are some who just find themselves in a situation. They are victims. So that girl or that woman gets pregnant when they're not ready, and it's ringing in their head that their parents said no one should get pregnant in this house. If you do, I'll kill you. Do you think that girl is going to go back to the parents to say this has happened to me? They will ask their friend at school, their peers, who probably they had done an abortion, and they will be told. And this is true, Pastor, because we did a bit of research and we found that there are women who are actually assisting them to procure illegal abortion. And this girl goes there, does whatever she has to do, it's not successful, and ends up at D block at the University Hospital to be clean, and it becomes an expense on the Zambian government. So that kind of advocacy, in a way, did not sit well with people. But I said to myself, I will give the information the way it is needed. I was there for 2.5 years, and I left to just pursue other things. I think outside formal work, the privilege of being on the board of NGOCC came in 2011 when I stood for vice chairperson, and I got the position. Mrs. Beatrice Bilo was the chairperson. We were there for 2 terms because NGOCC term is 2 years. 2 years. So we were there for 4 years, 2 terms, and 2014 we said our goodbyes. 4 years down the line, because according to the Constitution you cannot go back until you've cleared your 4 years. I was sitting comfortably at home. I get a phone call and I'm told, YWCA, why don't you go and be the chairperson? I was like, no, I think I did my 4 years, I don't need it anymore. I was put under pressure, I refused. And I said, I will find somebody very good for you. I don't have to be there. And they said, okay, you find someone for us and then we'll set you free. And I remember, because I did tell her, Reverend Susan Natali, I said that's the person that can actually help the NGOCC. And I remember going to her home one morning, and I get there, and the son says, oh, she's in America. And I'm like, okay, I'll send her a message. So I actually sent her a message, and the time I was sending the message, it was, I think she was online 2 hours before that. And I told her, Madam, there's this that I have in mind. When are you coming back? Can you do your papers? I've already put the executive team for you, and I told her the names. This will be your team. And I don't know, God has a way of doing things. If He has destined something, it will happen. Madam Suzanne Matale never read my message, never responded to it. The time I was sending the message, it was like 3 days before the closing date for the nomination, and I realized I was running out of time. I tried calling her, and it couldn't reach her. So in the end, I just said, okay, God, if you want me to be the chairperson, I'll take my papers. I remember taking my papers an hour before the closing. The closing time was 17 hours on that particular day. I was reaching there 16 hours, taking my papers there. And there were 2 of us who had vied for that position. And a few hours on the election day, the other candidate withdrew. So I went through
Unopposed.
So I guess when God has destined
That's
something,
right.
it
That's
just
right.
has to happen.
So your life has seen a lot of providence, God's hands.
I should say so. Yes.
He puts very convenient coincidences.
I should think so, because there are times when, if even this time round, the re-election. So 2018 to 2020, I have done my 2 years.
Yes.
And when I was going in there, I was telling my colleagues, I did my 4 years as vice chair on the board. I'm only going to do my 2 years, which will be 6 years. I think I'm not going to go for the second term. Yes, for re-election. And I did informally, speak to some of my colleagues. And again, I don't know why I always do it like this. I already had someone in mind. The person who actually, withdrew, I said, well, if you had intentions before, why don't you go for it? I said, oh, are you sure? I said, yes. So I said, okay. I literally even started taking her to meetings that I would go so that,
prepare your succession.
Prepare my successor, exactly. And as far as I was concerned, everything was set that she was going to vie for this position. So when my organization, the YWCA, because like I said, I'm on NGC board from YWCA,
Yes.
they asked me again when the nominations were sent, are you sure you're not going to stand? Because we really do not have a credible candidate.
Wow.
I was like, no, I'm not going to stand. Then they said, so which position should we vie for? I said, I know that you probably may not have someone who can go for the top position because it is quite challenging. Why don't we go for the second position, the vice chair, which I had the first time round? And then they said, okay, we'll try. I know that they struggled because I was told later that we really struggled, but we were not even convinced that okay, this person, but then she put herself forward and we put her papers. I think the day before the close of the nomination, I just decided to call my colleague, the one I said would vie for that position. And she laughed so loudly, and I couldn't understand why she was laughing. She said, Mary, oh no, I'm not going for the position. I think I'm too old. I think you young ones should be the ones in this leadership position. Then I said, do you realize it's just the day before the closing? And I have to put papers together if you're not doing it. Then she said, oh, actually, I didn't even receive my nomination papers. I said, no, you should have asked your nominating organization.
Yes.
Because nomination papers were sent to everyone.
Through your organization.
Yes. And she said, no, very casually. No, you go for it. I had just lost my husband in July, and she said, you need to be busy to keep your mind off this tragic event. Okay. So go for it, girl, go for it. I sat down for a few minutes, and I'm like, oh my God, if she's not going there, I don't know if they have any people who have gone for that position. So I called my nominating organization, the chairperson, YWCA, and I said, listen, this has happened. She's a reverend as well, the president of the YWCA. She says, wonderful.
Oh dear.
Actually, I was waiting for that because I don't think the nomination will put in. If there's competition, she may not, succeed. So I'm going to withdraw that nomination and put you there. And I'm like, seriously? She said, yes. And that's how it happened. My nomination, went there. I actually found out that there was actually another person who had vied, my vice chairperson.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess when you talk about providence,
yes,
I think God has a way of doing things.
He set you up.
Indeed.
Several times.
Several times,
yes.
Several times.
In your time, was it as easy to go to school? Was it as easy for a woman to aspire in a culture that looked at women as not leaders? What was leadership then? Because this year we are looking at women in leadership as the international theme for the women. What was your experience going around the country, coming with your dad as a teacher? How did that help you? What advantages did it give you? How did it create an environment for you to aspire to be a leader?
Very good questions and very probing too. Obviously, when it comes to issues of leadership, maybe even be it in a school, setting, whether primary school, secondary school, or the workplace, it wasn't very easy, those days, because there's all this thing about, women always being the ones who have to tag along,
Yes.
Behind the men. I mean, I did mention the issue of, what people found it difficult that both my husband and I, at some point, we both had master's degrees,
Yes.
because of this, misconception and mindset that a woman should always, lag behind. So it was not easy. I think for me, what kind of gave me that push, the encouragement, and the zeal was my dad.
Okay.
I am the firstborn in the family.
Yeah.
So, firstborn female child. Somehow Dad had a lot of confidence in me. He always encouraged me in whatever it is. But also because I probably was, a rebel from an early age.
You showed him
yes,
the traits you had that showed
Absolutely.
him you are a leader.
Absolutely. I was in grade 3, and being the firstborn, my younger sister, the one who came after me, died when she was a baby. It was a girl. And so the next one, so there's like a 6-year gap between myself and my next. Sibling. So my uncle, Dad's young brother, had 2 girls who, I think the age gap was 3 years, the eldest. And so I found that I needed to be with, those my cousins of mine.
Yes.
So I remember just going to my dad one morning and telling him that I was going to shift from his house
Wow.
to go to my uncle's place.
That was bold.
And he looked at me and he says, and I packed my things, and I was off.
Wow.
And I stayed with my uncle up to grade 7 when I passed.
At grade 3?
From grade 3 up to grade 7, simply because I wanted to be with my cousins who were
Yes,
female.
yes.
Yes, and for me, I think I found it easier to deal with them than with my younger brothers and sisters. And I think the reason why Dad did not stop me is because for me it was just telling him and going.
Doing it.
Yes, and doing it. So it wasn't about asking, it was about telling him, Dad, I'm going.
Wow.
And he allowed me, to go. So, but I think, I don't know, but perhaps of the way I was carrying myself, and maybe being for the firstborn, I provided leadership, to my siblings.
Okay.
Even if I had spent 5 years with my uncle, being with my young cousins, it was a situation where, and my first cousin would actually tell you today that I was a bully, but I don't think I was a bully. We would be walking from school, Kito Primary School, coming back home, and I would be telling them, giving them the chores on the way. So when we eat, you are going to wash the dishes, you are going to clean the floor, you are going, and so you'd have the older one saying, I'm not going to eat because she didn't want to do the dishes.
Okay.
So already I was showing this, I guess, leadership or trying to guide.
So leadership was innate. Leadership wasn't a title that was conferred on you. It was your innate traits that were expressing themselves.
I should think so. I should think so.
And these traits are in many women, if not all women.
You could say that. Really, women have these leadership traits, but society has made us believe and think that we are second-class citizens or the lesser gender because of the way we are socialized. Interestingly, I was having a chat, I think when I was already NGOCC chairperson, with Mlenga Kapwepo, I'm sure she wouldn't mind. She said, Mary, you are talking about all these women's rights issues and everything else. Do you realize the kind of potential that you have as a woman? And I think, the late Kapwepo was somebody who was very traditional.
Yes.
But brought up, I want to believe, the children very, very well to know their stance, in society.
In society.
So she told me this, story that Dad used to tell us that even when they would sit, like, in a village setting, they're sitting in the insaka, the men would be inside there, the women would be sitting behind, outside. And so an issue is being discussed or debated, and the woman there actually has an answer, would poke the husband and whisper something, and the man would say it in the meeting, oh no, actually it is this.
And it will seem like he's
and
the
it will
brain.
seem like he's the brain behind, that particular issue, and yet
It came from the insaka at the back.
From the back. And so I think that is the kind of situation that I think a lot of women find themselves in. They don't want to project, what they have. They always feel that things can be spoken through,
through the man.
Through the man.
Even in a matrilineal society.
Even in a matrilineal society. Yes.
We'll take a break, Ma, and we'll come back still talking to Mrs. Mary Mulenga. Thank you for joining us. So welcome back. Thank you. We're still talking to Mrs. Mary Mulenga, the chairperson of the NGOCC in Zambia, and the NGOCC is non-governmental coordinating organization for all organizations dealing with women issues in Zambia. We're really honored to have you, Ma. Before we went on break, it was getting really interesting, telling us what women we go through. And one of the things you talked about was that the men will sit down making decisions, and the women were at the back in a different Nsaka, but they were passing information. And that paints a picture of what it is today. We have a lot of women working in civil society, actively campaigning for equality and all, but we don't have them sitting on the tables where decisions are made. So we're going to come systemically here and look at why is this so. In my mind, a lot of the things we face as women is very systemic. They are normative. Therefore, if we want to change it, we have to go that way too. How was it? What is gender? We talk about gender equality. The average woman listening to us today, does she understand gender? And how did you come to know gender? You are born a male, a female. Then you grow into society through your family, through your mother, and they start telling you, oh, girls are like this, boys are like this, boys are more, girls are less. What was your experience, and how does that affect the woman, particularly in aspiring to become leaders? Because now the women are under the Nsaka, and the men are sitting, but the woman is the one sending the information, but the man is the one taking credit. How does that, from your birth, how did it work? If you can differentiate and tell us what gender is and how that has affected a woman's leadership with your example.
Yeah. First of all, I think there is a total misunderstanding, or people have chosen to misunderstand the term gender. And so you have even, this, is it cynicism or, about the whole thing. When you talk about gender, people think it's woman. And that's not the definition
Not
of
true
gender.
at all.
Gender is about male and female. And from that, I think, comes the gender roles that we have.
Yes.
There are roles that are, biological roles. There are roles that are social roles.
Societal.
Societal, yes. And because the men have decided to belittle, the definition of gender, this is where I think the problem, lies.
Okay.
And so some of us, have been labeled because we are speaking, for the silent majority,
Yes.
the woman.
Yes.
Like I said earlier on, there are a lot of women that have what it takes to be a leader. Because I think it is something that, comes naturally.
They were born with it, naturally.
Yes.
The woman is naturally a transformational leader.
Absolutely.
And the man oftentimes is raised to be a transactional leader. So why are we not seeing more women?
Exactly. So I think when it comes to leadership, I think in the political, socio-economic, arrangement spaces, it takes, first of all, there are those of us maybe who are aggressive and we realize that we have what it takes. But it's not many.
Would you call it aggression or assertion?
It's
Is
assertion.
it assertive?
Assertiveness, I think. In fact, or being affirmative.
Yes.
And so the work, for instance, of NGOCC, which we call, affirmative action, because people will say, why is it that you're just speaking for the women? And by the way, NGOCC is not just about promoting women's leadership, it's promoting both women's and male leadership, except we are more vocal on women leadership because of the numbers. Yes, because of the numbers. In this country, Zambia, like many countries in Africa, we have ratified protocols there which talk about participation in leadership positions, 50-50, equality. The domestication is what remains a big issue. And we have said, we have questioned first of all, and we have said, why isn't government, and it doesn't matter which political party comes into government, NGOCC has been around for 35 years, and for 35 years,
you've seen different governments come and go, and still we have these paltry numbers of women in leadership positions, especially where it matters most, where the decisions are made. Because we want to be where the decisions are made. Right.
Because once we are there, then we want to believe that I think it will trickle down to all these other issues. So we feel that political will is not there.
Okay.
The legal framework, the article that was ratified by the government is there. So why aren't successive governments implementing it? It's lack of political will.
Okay.
So we are always talking, and we will continue talking to whichever government is in power. We are talking to the political parties, because let's not just look at the bigger picture, because there are so many political parties now. I mean, even if you look at the big opposition political party, the UPND, we are grateful that recently the vice president
has been nominated,
and it is a woman, and we're saying she should be the running mate because she has what it takes to be there as the running mate. What about the other political parties? You just have to look at the numbers just to see how the whole thing is skewed towards men. So the political will is not there to have more women in leadership.
Because oftentimes discourses in Zambia, once it gets political, we lose the issues. So I'd like to come away from, yes, we know that, because that's where decisions are made, and even in the political machineries, you don't see that 50-50. So obviously it still reflects on that. But let's take it back to the beginning, where the woman comes from that embryo, and she comes into a society, and as a baby you're expecting equality. Why and how does gender, understanding what gender is as a social construct, how does this affect the woman's aspiration to leadership? Which is one reason why you don't see so many women there. So how did they affect in your time? 50-something years ago, you are going through this. Today you are here heading the NGOCC. There must have been some, that's why they probably looked at you as a rebel, rules you were breaking. What are those things that kept the woman, and still keeps the woman down today? As you were growing up, did you face any of such?
Yes. I think the issue of our socialization is something that, in a way, does not encourage, many women to, to sort of come out of their shell and aspire, for leadership. I've always quoted, this saying, which says, "A woman should be seen, not heard." And I always say, okay, if I am aspiring for political leadership, or for any leadership for that matter, and if I just have to keep quiet until somebody sees me, then it's going to work against me.
That's right.
So a lot of sayings and the thing that are drowned into a girl, as the girls are growing up, I think in a way has a lot to do with who's, that person becomes at the end of the day. And especially if you have parents who are not encouraging you, who don't see, your potential, especially in the girls, where they feel that, the male child is the one who's going to become a doctor, a lawyer, and you name it. It becomes very difficult. So yes, the socialization, the cultural, norms, tend to put and discourage,
So your
women.
father, therefore,
my father was
major.
Yes.
Because he saw your potential as a man.
Absolutely.
So we need no champions also.
Very true.
To advocate and to say she's a leader.
Absolutely. And this is why, even for the motto for NGOCC, women and men moving together is very, very important.
Very good.
Because if the men and the women are not moving together, there will always be this thing that, no, this is a woman thing, and they won't support it. But where you have a male, in my case, my dad, not even my mom, my dad coming out to say, you are capable of doing this. Something else that I remember, just before I went for my master's degree. So I'm working in Kasama, I've got my scholarship, 25 going to 26 already. The clock is ticking, and people are expecting me to get married. So I get the scholarship, and I'm thrilled. And I go to my parents and I'm telling them I'll be going for my master's degree. My dad was super excited. My mom, she comes and whispers to me, you are not going to get married if you're too educated. And I'm like, oh. And my dad always defended me. Just leave her alone, she knows what she's doing. So you see. And
the husband was waiting for you.
And the husband was waiting for me when I went to do my master's degree.
So if you hadn't gone, you'd have
I wouldn't have. Exactly. So if it had been the other way around, where dad is the one who was saying, no, you can't go, and my mom is the one, it would have been different.
You would have been at home.
Yes, I would have been at home. But because this male figurehead.
And that would have meant a totally different life for
Absolutely.
You may have ended up working somewhere and never coming into
this whole, atmosphere that I've actually been able to. So I think the partnership in this, fight for gender equality is very, very important. And when you asked, the meaning of gender, and I said that there's already a misconception that gender is female.
Yes.
So we need to let it out there. The people should know that gender is about female and male working together for development.
Because when they say minister of gender, people think they are talking minister of women, not knowing that they're talking about minister of both male and female, working to see that they're working together.
And maybe to actually erase this stereotypical thinking about gender, let them have a male minister of gender, so that it demystifies this whole thing, because the female minister is there, so everyone thinks it has to be, the issues should only be concerned about women's issues. Absolutely not. And the other thing, Pastor, that I like to refer to, why women are very important in any situation.
Yes.
And I'm glad you're a pastor. God is God, and He's a wonderful God.
Absolutely.
He wakes up because He's God and decides to create the world, the universe, and everything that is in it.
Yeah.
When He's done that in the whatever days He did it, in His wisdom He says, let me create somebody who's going to appreciate my creation. So He creates this male being called Adam, gives him all the authority to name all these things that He has created.
Yes.
Because He's God, He could have said, this is where my creation ends.
That's right.
No. God realized.
He enables him, empowers him.
God realized that His creation was incomplete without the female.
A woman, that's right.
And this is God.
Yeah.
And I just find that's fantastic.
And the man didn't know that.
He didn't know that. And so God realizes for this creation to be appreciated, and for this being, the man that I've made, to see, sense, and appreciate what I've done. Let me bring this being. And so we know the story in Genesis. puts the man to sleep, creates this wonderful
Woman.
being. The man wakes up. You can even just see the expression.
Oh, yeah.
How he's
excited.
just excited. Wow, goodness. But it doesn't end there, Pastor. This being that has come to just complete, because for me, the woman completes
Absolutely.
God's creation.
Absolutely.
She even starts to discover, as she's walking around and discovers, hello, there are fruit trees in this garden, which this man didn't even see. Can you see the inquisitiveness? It's just fantastic.
This is where they say preach, preach.
The woman, the woman just brings excitement, completion to just this whole thing, and God knew that.
So we must be missing a lot if we're excluding the woman.
Totally. If the woman is excluded in any setup, believe you me, that thing is not complete.
I agree with you.
That situation is not complete. Women, we are, is it horizontal in thinking? Because we cover a lot of space. Multitasking, you name it. In a family setting, the mother will always ensure that things are happening in the home. Whether it is the laundry, whether it is the cooking, whether it is the school.
And the money.
And the money too, you see, which the man
Yeah.
should be, providing. Because I want to believe that when it comes to gender roles, and I think even the man should be providing, should be protecting,
Yes.
the home.
Yeah.
But we will still do that. And I always tell whenever I have a chance to talk at kitchen parties that we can still do those roles, but we should not overdo them, because then we are taking away the God-given role of the spouse.
Man, and it loses its significance.
And it loses its significance
respect.
and confuses everything.
That's
and
right.
that is where now you start having the gender-based violence, because you are trading on somebody's territory.
So it's a partnership.
Absolutely.
Let's see, ma'am. In your so many years so far, you came into activism once you went into doing your master's. But we are looking at you from when you started grade 3. Your leadership started to show. What challenges have you faced as a woman, which other women are facing? And how did you overcome? Can you give us illustrations? Just because you're a woman, what challenges have you faced? You talked about where you worked in the UK, Norwich. You saw that a lot of the people there were women having mental health issues because of abuse. We go through worse than that probably, but our women are so resilient. You don't see these things and they keep going. What have you gone through in your experience as a woman leader that probably the man doesn't go through, and you are still leading?
First of all, society does not expect a woman to be very assertive, because once you are that, then there must be something, there's a force behind. Either you're not doing something correct, that's why you're like that. And you find that a lot of people in society would, first of all, they want to find out, is she married? Are you married? Or are you coming from a broken home or whatever? Because it is not normal for somebody
a woman to be like that.
Yes, for a woman to be like that. And I don't think that is the correct assertion. So I think resilience and being focused is something that helped me in my leadership journey. I ignored whatever was said and even challenged it.
Okay.
And for as long as I didn't think I was doing anything wrong, then I just went with what I thought I should be doing.
So you believed in yourself.
Absolutely.
And you remained consistent.
You have to remain consistent, because if you're going to listen to every person saying whatever it is, then you will never, once you lose focus, then you're done. When we got into NGOCC board, on the website, or is it whatever, they put the list of the members of the board that had won. So
Yes.
you know how what we call the gender neutral term. It's
Okay.
not Miss, it's not Mrs., it's Ms. MS.
Yes.
And so the prefix to all our names, and funny enough, that year, or that term, were all female, board members. So they had all this MS. And you should have seen the comments to that article, where now the men were
They think
saying,
they are single.
you see, that's why they can't do anything right. They're all single. They are not married, and what have you?
Very uninformed.
I said, I'm not going to respond to this because, first of all, I was married and very happily married to a very supportive, husband. Yeah, who actually helped me campaign for the elections because he believed in me. So you need to be confident, and you need to be focused. And today, I think for those women that are aspiring for political leadership, that is something that is non-negotiable. People are going to say what they want to say. Know what it is that you want to do.
Because once you come out, they will throw mud.
Absolutely.
And they will say she's this and she's that.
That's right. So you just remain focused on your path. If God has said you are going to be a member of parliament or a ward councillor or a chairperson of the council, then just go out there and do it. Don't mind about what people are saying. Unless you are doing something wrong, then you can mind. But if you know you are doing the right thing, and the only evil you have done or mistake is to be a woman.
A woman.
You have no apologies to
make. And that
make.
is no mistake
It's
at all.
no mistake at all, because God created you a beautiful being to go out there and save humanity in whatever position that God will give you. So let's forget about all the stereotypes, because they'll always be there. Let's forget about the name calling, because they'll always be there. Let women just go out there.
So women must never be afraid to say, what will people say about me?
No.
As long as you are doing the right thing.
As long as you're doing the right thing. And Pastor, that is where the problem is. When women begin to think, so I went on TV, what did people say? No. You went there to say the right thing, to communicate something to the people. And what's wrong with that?
Yeah.
And you did.
Yes.
So women, just get on with it. This year, I can assure you that come 12th August, you are going to see the numbers of women in those political leadership soaring. But that will not leave even the other non-political positions. I just feel there's a wave of change for the women to take up leadership positions, and this is the year.
We're looking for it now. We're looking so forward to it. Before we go, so as you have the opportunity to talk to women, what would you say to that woman? Because we have 50-50 by law. We signed it. It's ratified that there should be 50-50 women, men in any leadership. Why are women not taking their places? And what are you saying to women today? Is it that we are not ready? Why? And what would you say to the woman watching today?
I keep encouraging the women, and I wish that the women that are watching this program will get inspired, because I am somebody who has not stopped at anything. Even in the church setting, I think it's about projecting yourself, because if you do not offer yourself, then people are not going to know that there is a potential in that particular person. So women, come out of your closets and tell the whole world that you can do something. And it's not just about political leadership. Let's not get this wrong. We are in churches, and I think a huge percentage of this population goes to church. Why don't you project yourself in those committees? Why do you have to always be the one? Even when they ask for a prayer, you point to the next person to say, no, I can't pray. Project yourself. I don't know, maybe it's because of the assertiveness that we talked about earlier. I found myself, although I've slowed down now, because you know what, I started feeling that I think God will go and punish me for taking too many positions, because I was heading the catechetical, where we're teaching children. I was in the construction committee. I was in this, that, and everything else. So I started saying, no, I think God will ask me. I say, you see, you blocked, people. And perhaps that is the other thing. Some women, when they see, other women going forward, they feel, no, it is only Mrs. Mulenga that can do it, and they fail to project it. So women, please, come out of your closets and take up these leadership positions.
We're going to put that as a big quote on your name. Women, come out of your closet and show the world what you can do.
Indeed.
Take up these positions. So women can do it, man.
Women can do it.
And you have done it for so long.
I have done it, and I'm still doing it. Watch this space.
We hope that you will be passing this baton to another woman. And before we go, we're going to make a caption where you're going to pass the baton to somebody else. And I pray that that woman will take the challenge and come and sit on this seat and tell us about their leadership journey. We're so grateful for you to come.
Thank you.
Time flies. 1 hour passes so fast.
Wow.
We can't believe that. We haven't even started talking about you yet, and the time has gone. So we hope you will come again to CBC. CBC is here to serve you and serve the women. Please tell everyone in NGOCC they have a station. It's called CBC, and we want to be the voice of the woman. So if you will take the opportunity, we can reach as many people. In a COVID world, media reaches out to women faster than legs on the streets. So please, we thank you for coming. Mrs. Mary Mulenga, she has said to women, do not sit in the Sacrs at the back, but come out and show your potential. Let the world know you can do. We cannot be second rate anymore. This is 21st century. Women, you are able, get on that seat. Let people know you're there. It's 50-50. He for she, let's make it happen. God bless you. Thank you for joining us. Tomorrow, we'll have another woman talking about where they came from scars to stars. And Zambia is rich of great women leaders. Thank you for joining us tonight. We will see you tomorrow with another beautiful woman produced 100% from Zambia, telling their story of their leadership journey. God bless you. Have a good evening. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you very
God
much.
bless you.
There is a core belief at the heart of Liquid Telecom. The belief that every individual has the right to be connected. The pursuit of this vision has seen